Hey friends, welcome back to the Hidden Power of Communication. This is session 4, choosing words intentionally. Let me give you a quick recap on our first 3 sessions, remind you how this is working depending on where you're watching me, and then we'll jump right into our content today. So we started out our time together with session 1 talking about your communication / personality style, and we did the what type of coffee are you. So if you haven't taken that, go back to session 1 somewhere in the feed, and the link is in there, or just go right to my website. You can take it online or you can take it on paper, whichever you want to do. In the second session, we talked about what is language, which is really foundational to this whole course. What is it other than what we think it is? The third session we talked about factors affecting your language other than just personality style. We talked about gender and emotions and thoughts and all kinds of things like that. Today, we are going to talk about choosing words on purpose intentionally. So quick reminder, you might be watching me on YouTube. You might be watching me on Facebook Watch Party via my page or via my Stress Club private group. Wherever you're watching, this is pre-recorded, but I am with you live as far as being like online with you. So type in comments, ask me questions, anything. I'll post links. If I talk about a link today, I'll post it there so you can go back and take a look. I always set my timer. You guys know me by now that I'm kind of a time Nazi, and I think I've been pretty darn good. So we've been right at the 25-minute mark. So we'll try to do that today, under 30 minutes. So I want to start with a quick video clip from my favorite show ever. And hopefully, if you know me, you're going, oh yeah, Big Bang Theory. Yes, Big Bang Theory. And the setup to this is that there's been a robot fighting competition, and the robot has been destroyed. Here we go.
So what do you think, Howard? It's not that bad, right?
Oh, no, a little electrical tape, some solder. Are you insane? I've seen space probes that crashed into the desert that were in better shape than this.
You're right. Monty's gone. We'll bury him in the morning. It's a simple ceremony. I'll speak. Leonard, you'll play your cello.
Sheldon, honey, aren't you getting a little carried away? I mean, it's just a toy robot.
Just a toy robot?
Penny.
I know, I got it.
Favorite show ever. And just as an aside, when Tim and I moved to California a couple of years ago, for a couple of years, I got to go see it recorded, which was a real highlight for me. So anyway, why this particular video? So we watch Sheldon just get very upset because his robot was destroyed. And then Penny uses the words, just a toy robot. And then he cries and runs away. So what is the big deal? What does it matter if it's just a toy robot? You know, we use words a lot, and we don't oftentimes think about what those words really mean. So I'm going to share my screen with you one more time, well, multiple times today, actually. I'm going to go back and forth. I've got another video. I've got a document that I want to share with you. So let me show you. When I tried to Google, because I wondered, I was like, well, what do other people say about the words that we use and why they're powerful? And I went on a few websites, and let me tell you what I usually find when it comes to the power of words that we use. Oftentimes it is about just a couple of things. First of all, so this one says the power of negative words, and it talks about how words shape our lives, and they do, right? It says the illusion of life, well, that's blah, 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 blah. Words and water, the power of gratitude, that if we say things like thank you and all that it makes us feel better. That's so true. Then this article talks about throwaway words, words that tell people, saying things like, I'm so stupid, I'm such a klutz. They talk about it being negative and affecting our lives. That is so true. So some of the advice is really good. So understand when I'm showing you this, I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm saying it's very good. Make words work. No name calling or self-criticism. Stop self-deprecation. Resist gossiping and speaking of others. Go on a negativity diet. Boost the positive energy of words. If you have some negative Nancys in your circle of friends, basically you need to kind of get away from that. Surround yourself with positive, uplifting words. That is so good. It is absolutely so good. All I'm saying is there's a couple of things missing. One of the things is just, okay, what words? So we're encouraged to use positive words, but we don't like build a library. And the second thing that I think is missing is just how we use words, not just to influence our attitude and how we feel and what we get out of life, but basically to help our relationships with other people and to actually create who we want to be, to create our identity. So if you've been with me at any time at all, then you've heard me talk about the concept of identity. So if you're watching right now in my ladies group, in my private Facebook stress club group, then you've heard me talk about this. This along with, so a couple sessions ago, I talked about the discursive psychology, which most people have never heard of. And this is the second thing I want to talk about. I mentioned it before, but I want to go into more detail about what most people don't really think about. So you might remember when I talked about discursive psychology, I said one of the things that we do with our language is we create our identities. We tell people who we are. Well, I want to be, and I think I said I would come back to that in more detail, or I wanted to spend more time with it because it's really important, this concept of identity. Now, when I say identity, basically what I mean is in our language communication context here is who I am to you when we're talking. So identity can mean, it's anything that tells other people who I am. Woman, speaker, author, mother, friend, Christian, I guess according to AARP, elderly, not yet retired. Anyway, you get that point. So those are words that are pretty much people know that because they can either see you or they know what you do. And then there are identities like kind and helpful, powerful, wise, silly, funny, any words that people would use to describe you. So if you've been, I'm going to hold this up so you can see. I may have held this up before. So if you've ever been to a conference, we wear badges sometimes that have multiple elements of our identity. So this tells you my name, that I'm Tammy. This tells you that I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a trainer. This tells you that with the PhD, I guess it would be the doctor. I'm a speaker here. This is a badge that a teacher at a conference that I spoke at once said that she would always say that everything was the worst. And so her friends got together and they thought it was funny, and it was funny, and I get it, but she had this badge that she wore on her ID that said the worst. She wore it all year long. She took it off and she gave it to me because basically what these are identities. So I started paying attention as I went to conferences, like what sort of identities were people creating. And the ribbons, like these, some of them they would give to them, speaker, first time attendee, whatever. But then they also had ribbon stations sometimes where you could buy a ribbon and you might pay $1. So I was noticing the types of ribbons people were paying $1 for. Workaholic, OCD, first timer, I'm the man in the middle, that could be funny. And then I'm gonna skip that. Somebody, mastermind, show me the money, know it all, cool, those are cute. And stressed, which, by the way, I can open this up. After one of my sessions, somebody took that off and gave it to me. Now, you might remember in that session I talked about we bond over these things, because if I was walking through a conference and I had on a ribbon that says stressed and I came upon somebody else who had a ribbon that says stressed, I might be, woohoo, me too, and we would bond over that, which we don't want to do. So maybe we need to start working on choosing better identities. This is a friend of mine if you're in the stress club, you've seen this before in the private Facebook group. And if you've seen me speak, you've seen all this before. But she took my advice and she made identities. Tammy's friend, Sweet, Child of the Most High, Princess, Faith Ann and Austin's Meemaw, all those things. So if you notice a difference in the lighting or where I'm sitting, it's because there was, I don't know if I already said the dog was barking, but we have multiple people in the house. We have multiple dogs in the house. You know, through all this COVID, there was one bark, but which we could have dealt with, but then it became rah, rah, rah. So I had to stop and pick up here. So here we are. And where we left off was we can walk around in a conference and have a badge on that tells each other who we are, but that's not the norm of daily life. I mean, you know, I'm a woman mainly because you can look at me, and if I was with my husband and we had wedding rings on, then you might make the assumption that we were married. If I was younger and I was walking around with little children, you might think I was a mother. If I was in a Christian church, you would probably think I was a Christian. So those things happen. But the main way that we tell each other who we are, for example, strong or bold or funny or even kind. Yes, we can do acts of kindness, things like that, but mainly it's through our language. So what I did next was I just put a few phrases. And there we go, sharing that screen for us. And I called this choosing words intentionally because when we talked about the interpretive repertoires or themes in life or the way that we talk about things in life, we have words that we choose from. We don't even realize we're choosing them. Again, remember 9:15 versus 9:13 versus 9 o'clock, $14.99 or $14 versus $15 plus tax, plus shipping, all that stuff. So we're choosing words that we don't know that we're choosing. So earlier when I said some of the missing things, I think is oftentimes if you take a communication seminar, there's this model called the Mehrabian model of communication, and I will post a picture of it in the comments section. And you've heard it before. If you've taken a communication class, you probably have, but maybe you haven't heard it referred to as Mehrabian model. But what it says is that 93% of the message people get from you comes from your body language and your tone of voice, but only 7% from words. It's taught a little bit incorrectly because what he really meant, what Al Mehrabian meant, was that if you're in an emotional conversation and you say, going back to, I'm not mad, well, because you're emotional, nobody's going to believe those words. They're going to believe your tone of voice and maybe the body language, I'm not mad. But in a regular conversation, when the words and the body language and things match up, words are so important, but we're really not taught that. When you learn that model, it seems like words are just not important, and words are important. I'm going to put a link in the comment section to a book called Power Phrases, which I've used all over the world because I think it's fantastic. But I made a list here just in document, and I'll post this somehow in the comment section. I'd love to hear words and phrases that you hear. And I want to hear, and I'm going to talk about words and phrases that both build you up and also build relationships, and words that maybe tear you down and also tear down relationships or make other people not feel great. So I started something a while back called Wordy Wednesday, and sometimes my espresso style comes through and I start something and then it drops. So it just dropped. But I notice things, okay? I notice words. So some phrases that we should probably look at, why we use them, what the action is. So you're telling a story about something and you say, well, if that had been me. And so what does that phrase mean? Why are we using that phrase? Maybe to build ourselves up. And I don't mean in an arrogant way, but it's always nice to compare ourselves to somebody if we can come out on the winning. So if that had been me, I would have done it this way. If that had been me, I wouldn't have said that. Well, if that had been me, I wouldn't have done that. So it's sort of a way to tell a story maybe and build yourself up. No problem. All right, I'm going to stop sharing this screen. I am going to share a different screen, if you will give me one moment. So not only is my favorite, I think this is what I want to share. I hope this is what I want to share. Okay. My favorite television show is Big Bang Theory. My favorite food place of all time is Chick-Fil-A. Hang on a minute. I'm sorry, you guys. I want to make sure that I told it to do sound, and I did not. So here we go. Let's listen to Chick-fil-A.
It's going to be a change today. If a customer says thank you to us, we respond with the words, my pleasure.
Here's your Coke. We will have the food out for you right underneath our pickup sign.
Thank you.
My pleasure. You have a fantastic day.
And Brisbane will take payment for you just around the corner. My pleasure.
Be able to take your payment up at the Red Umbrella and we're all set. All right, my pleasure. Have a good day.
And Mr. Cathy said, if you could only say 3 words or 2 words to somebody today, and you said the words, you're welcome, that's an empty statement. What does that even mean? What is that? But if you say, it's my pleasure from your heart and genuine, that's really a meaningful thing. You leave that positive impression with the guest.
There's 3 Chick-fil-A sauces in the bag for you, and then I've got large Coke, and you're all set. My pleasure. Have a great day.
I'll grab you another one of these. My pleasure. There you go.
My pleasure. Those of you, if you do not have a Chick-fil-A in your neck of the woods, I am so sorry for you. Really, I will pray for you that a Chick-fil-A will come to your area. I will also post a picture of all of the Chick-fil-A drink carriers, because during this social isolation, my husband and I would go to Chick-fil-A. We order through the app, which I have red status, which is the highest. They've invited me for a visit. I'll do it soon with 5 of my friends. And so we would order through the app, and all you have to do is put your parking space in, and we will wait, and they would bring it, and we would pull away into another parking lot, and we would have like a date with Chick-fil-A. So I'll post a picture of all the drink carriers. We've been very supportive. But if you know anything about Chick-fil-A, when you say thank you, they say my pleasure. Let me share my screen again with my document here. So sometimes I will go to, well, either a store or just a person I know, and you thank them and they say no problem. It's just an interesting phrase to me, no problem, because it's like, well, was it a problem? I didn't really think that it was a problem. Or so what we have to think of is when someone says my pleasure, or even you're welcome is better than no problem, or I was happy to do it. Do you see how that can lift that other person up and build a relationship? Who do you want to be, and what language do you want to use? Must be nice. And I'm going to read, so this is in the exit strategy of my book, In Order to Get Out of the Stress Club, but listen to these phrases. Must be nice, lucky you. Well, at least you don't have to blah, 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 blah. You have no idea. Welcome to my world. Join the club. Well, you think you're stressed or whatever it is. Well, in the real world. Well, who in here ever gets to, when you're comparing somebody did something good? Well, just wait till you have kids. Well, you must not have a lot going on. Oh, I would never have time to just sit there and blah, blah, blah. Sounds like a dream world to me. Ooh, well, I would love to be him. These are all phrases that create the identity of being stressed out, but also create the identity, at least what we think is like being responsible or being in the club, being like each other. These phrases do not lift you up and create the life that you want. Well, see, so if somebody's telling a story and maybe they were talking about how they respond in traffic, or someone pulled out in front of them, and then the other person says, oh, well, see, I would never let that happen. And so what that does is that person just shared that story and you took it completely away from them. Just, when I showed you the Big Bang Theory, just can be used in several really strange ways. Like, it's just a toy robot. Okay, well, it was just a question. Well, I was just kidding. Also, when you give instructions to somebody and you say, okay, well, you just do this, and it indicates that what you're talking about is just easy and unimportant, and it kind of keeps the other person from maybe asking questions or speaking up. Okay, saying you are, well, now I've even forgot what I was going to say, like, you are rude, okay? Or anytime you say you are. No offense, but I mean, I probably don't even need to say more. When you say no offense, but we know you're going to say something that's not pleasant. But in any form, basically, because when you say something, most of you have heard this, nice, and then you say but, it discounts everything before. So don't say but. Nobody wants a bigger but. Women are told, okay, so for the women who are watching, talked about this before, saying when someone compliments you, oh, thanks, but, you know, or, oh, thanks, I got it at Goodwill, or, oh, thanks, I got it on sale, or saying, I'm sorry for no reason, saying I'm sorry, or saying a sentence and saying, but that's just my opinion. Doing something called tagging or intonation, which means, well, I think the country should open up soon, but that's just my opinion. So the going up on the ends of the words makes it like a question, and tagging is the, well, that's just my opinion. And that can, I want to say this to women in case you haven't heard me say this before, that can indicate a lack of confidence. It surely can. But sometimes for women, it's just a way to continue the conversation. It's a way to connect with other women. It's a way to not appear like you are better than. It's a way to be alike and included. We do have to be careful though. Again, I just want you to have insight into why you speak the way you speak. Well, everybody knows that sometimes comes with, well, everybody knows I'm blunt. Well, everybody knows I speak my mind. So why? Again, I can't swab your brain. I can't know why you're saying it, but why are you saying it? What is the action? Is it because, I mean, it could be many things. It could just because you want to make an excuse for what you know is poor behavior. I don't know. But let me give you a couple of good phrases. Y'all can see what's coming tomorrow, the language of conflict, which is actually, day 5. What about phrases that lift people up? And I only have a couple because I didn't want to go on and on and on, take too much time. But if you're in a conversation with someone and you're really listening, because you'll hear things about listening that will say, lean forward and get the distractions out. But what about things we can say that create our identity as a good listener? That's an identity. How about, hang on, can you back up a second? This person will know when you say that you were really listening. Or maybe you did drift off for a second. Hang on, can you back up a second? And then you ask them to repeat something, which makes them really think you're interested. Or saying, wow, really? Like if they share a story of something crazy that happened in traffic, instead of saying, oh, well, see, or saying, well, if that would have been me, or whatever it is, that you say, wow, really? I mean, have words that will really show people that you were listening and that you value them. I put the last one on here just because this goes back to that website I showed you. It talked about using self-deprecating things and never use self-deprecating. Again, this is probably more to women. You do have to be careful about using self-deprecating things like, oh, I'm so stupid, or oh, I'm so clumsy. I do say I'm so clumsy, or I might say that I'm stupid, but sometimes it's in a conversational way to keep the conversation open. I would not, like for me, when I say those kinds of things, it's more about just making somebody feel comfortable. Be very careful about those words that you use is what I would say to you. So that is our time together today. What I wanted for you to understand today and to be aware of, because again, this is the hidden power of language, is that we choose words on purpose, whether we know it or not. We have a repertoire of words that are in our brains. And if we don't build them up, we won't have anything to choose from. If we're not aware of why we're using the language, what the action is, we won't make conscious choices. We won't choose on purpose. So I normally begin a session with this story, but I'm going to end real quick with just a little piece of this story, just to say to you, it really works. I was doing a seminar with another woman trainer when I used to do contract seminar work. We weren't bonding, and Wednesday of it was a women's conference. We had about 100 women. So we opened up together, and then we did breakout sessions that the women could choose from. So there came a point where we talked about our sessions. We took a break. The women could go to either her class or mine. It was about ready to start when she came walking in with a chair. And she said, well, no one came to my class, so I'll just join you. Now, when that happens, typically if a trainer visits another trainer or a teacher visits another teacher in a class, they're like, zip it. So I was teaching an emotions class. And I said to the room, I said, I need someone to engage me in a difficult conversation. Who will do it? no one ever does it, because what I'm basically saying is I need you to be mean to me. But her hand went straight up. I'm sorry, I meant to stop sharing my screen. So her hand went straight up, and I called on her, and I had my hair up that day. And in front of 100 women, she said, yeah, what's up with your hair? Now, that doesn't feel good. Now, there's a whole backstory, and there's a very, I'll tell you the story some other time. But my point here is that I had been studying powerful language, including the book that I told you about, Power Phrases. And I remembered a phrase in there because what I wanted to do, here's the thing, what action did I want to create? I wanted to tell because they're waiting on me. 100 women, I'm teaching a class. It was on emotions. They were waiting. And so I didn't have to, but I wanted to present the appearance of being confident and strong and calm. So my face did get red, but I searched my brain for the words. And I found the words, and I said, what would make you ask me something like that? And then the story went on. So my point is, learn words, be aware of the words that you're choosing, begin to develop vocabulary of new words, look at what identity you want to create. And I'm hoping for nobody that's weak, doormat, or aggressive and tyrannical in your face. So those two groups of people, the weak doormat probably want to be kind, and the dominant tyrannical probably want to be strong. But there are words that we can use for that. So let's go learn them. So in my espresso, wanting to have an identity of kind, choosing my words, I will say, see you tomorrow. Love and hugs, and have a great night.